You know, what's the deepest cut you can get? It's almost never from an enemy you see coming, right? Nope. It's from the person standing right next to you. In this explainer, we are diving headfirst into some of history's most absolutely brutal stories of betrayal. These are tales where trust was just completely shattered and friendships ended in blood.
So, I'm willing to bet you've seen one of the most infamous scenes in modern TV, the Red Wedding. I mean, who hasn't? But that moment, that shocking, unbelievable betrayal, it wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It was actually inspired by a real historical event, one that's arguably even more chilling. And oh yeah, we'll get to that one later.
And that's really our focus today. Look, fictional betrayals are one thing, but the real life stories, they're just so much more complex and way, way more devastating, especially when the knife is in the hand of someone you trusted with your life. Okay, our first story takes us way back to the 5th century. This is a time when the mighty Western Roman Empire was, well, it was crumbling. And right in the middle of all this chaos, two men, the best of friends, they saw a golden opportunity to seize power together. So, meet Ricimer and Majorian. Their friendship was forged in battle, fighting side by side to defend this failing empire. Ricimer was the brains of the operation, a brilliant strategist, the real power broker. But as a non-Roman, he could never ever wear the crown himself. So Majorian, he was the respected Roman face of the duo. The plan was simple. They'd stage a coup, and Ricimer would rule from the shadows through his best friend, the new emperor. But there was one massive flaw in the plan. Majorian turned out to be incredible at his job. I mean, he wasn't a puppet at all. He was a genuine leader. He fought corruption, he passed major reforms, and he started winning back huge chunks of lost territory. Seriously, for the first time in decades, there was this real glimmer of hope that Rome could actually return to its former glory. For Ricimer, though, this was a complete disaster. He wasn't proud of his friend, he was furious. This was not the plan. And right here, we see our first deadly motive. Ambition so powerful, it just cannot stand to be in second place. In Ricimer's mind, he was the one who was supposed to be saving Rome, not his puppet. Majorian's success wasn't a shared victory, it felt like a personal attack. And the whole thing unraveled so fast. After years of success, Majorian's massive invasion fleet just mysteriously burns. And all the whispers point straight to Ricimer. Ricimer seizes the moment, spreading lies in the Senate, so when Majorian travels to meet his old friend for advice, he comes totally unarmed, no guards. And what does Ricimer do? He has him arrested, tortured for 5 days, and then beheaded. By murdering his best friend, he pretty much sealed the fate of the entire Western Roman Empire. All right, so from the unchecked ambition in Rome, we're going to travel now to 12th century China, where a national hero wasn't brought down by an enemy on the battlefield, but by a totally different kind of poison. Pure, simple jealousy, festering in his own court. On one side, you've got Yue Fei. This guy is one of the greatest generals in all of Chinese history. I mean, he's a legend, said to have once defeated an army of 100,000 with just 500 men. He was undefeated and absolutely adored by the people. And then on the other side, you have Qin Hui, a powerful politician who saw Yue Fei's massive popularity not as a good thing for the country, but as a personal threat to his own power. To really get a sense of Yue Fei's character, you only need to know this one story. He was torn between caring for his elderly mother and defending his country from invasion. So his mother gave him her blessing by tattooing these 4 characters right onto his back. His loyalty was literally written on his skin. For 10 long years, Yue Fei fought tirelessly, pushing the invaders back step by step. By the year 1140, he was right on the verge of total victory, about to recapture the fallen capital. But back in the court, Qin Hui had convinced the emperor that a victory, well, it would be politically inconvenient. So at the absolute peak of his success, Yue Fei was ordered to just abandon his campaign and come home immediately. The moment he got back, Qin Hui had him thrown in prison for treason. After months of torture, Yue Fei, the undefeated hero of a nation, died in his cell. For centuries after this, statues of Qin Hui and his wife were put up in a kneeling position right in front of Yue Fei's tomb, so that people could come and spit on the man who betrayed China's greatest general. Our next story takes us to the 16th century Warring States period in Japan, a time so chaotic that betrayal was practically a national sport. Here, we're going to see the tale of a powerful lord and the loyal retainer he humiliated one too many times, sparking a pretty terrible vengeance. So, Oda Nobunaga was on the verge of unifying all of Japan. He was brilliant, but also erratic and famously cruel. Akechi Mitsuhide was one of his most trusted and competent generals. He was older, more educated, and deeply loyal. But Nobunaga's abrasive personality, it made for a really toxic working relationship. Nobunaga just relentlessly humiliated Akechi. In one famous incident, he grabbed Akechi's head and pretended it was a drum in front of the entire court. But the real breaking point, that came when Akechi negotiated a surrender. He offered his own mother as a hostage to guarantee the enemy lord's safety. But when that lord showed up, Nobunaga just had him executed anyway, which led to Akechi's mother being killed in retaliation. That was the final straw. In 1582, Akechi was ordered to march his army to reinforce another general. Instead, he turned his 13,000 men around, marched on the Honnoji temple where Nobunaga was staying with almost no guards, and attacked his own master. Surrounded and completely overwhelmed, Nobunaga took his own life. Akechi declared himself the new shogun, but his victory was incredibly short-lived. Just 13 days later, he was defeated and killed by Nobunaga's other generals, who all raced back to avenge their master. His grand betrayal earned him less than 2 weeks of power. And now, for our final story, the one that inspired the Red Wedding. We're going to the late 17th century Scottish Highlands, where the single most sacred rule of the culture was about to be violated in the most horrific way you can imagine. Okay, before we go any further, you have to understand one crucial rule. In the Scottish Highlands, hospitality was everything. A guest under your roof was sacred. They were under your protection. To harm a guest was an unthinkable, unforgivable sin. You have to remember that. So here's how the trap was set. The MacDonald clan was a few days late swearing an oath to the new king. So 120 soldiers led by Captain Robert Campbell were sent to their home. Now, the Campbells and MacDonalds were rival clans, but Campbell's niece was married to one of the MacDonald sons, so they were technically family. For 2 weeks, the MacDonalds welcomed these soldiers, giving them food, drink, the best beds in the house. Then, in the pre-dawn hours of February 13th, the soldiers received their true orders: kill everyone. It was just a cold act of political expediency. The soldiers went from house to house, murdering their hosts, men, women, and children, right in their beds. 38 were killed in the first attack. Many, many more fled into a raging blizzard without food or clothing and just froze to death. They weren't killed by an enemy army, they were murdered by the guests they had cared for like family. So, after walking through these 4 really brutal moments in history, what can we take away? What's the thread that connects all these betrayals across centuries and across continents? Well, each of these betrayals was driven by a deeply human and deeply destructive emotion. For Ricimer, it was ambition that couldn't stand being number 2. For Qin Hui, it was the corrosive jealousy of a lesser man. For Akechi, it was pure vengeance for relentless humiliation. And for the Campbells at Glencoe, it was just the cold, brutal logic of politics. Ambition, jealousy, revenge, politics. These forces are just as real today as they were centuries ago. And these stories, they serve as a really dark reminder that sometimes the most devastating wounds aren't inflicted by our enemies, but by the very people we welcome into our homes and into our hearts.